Hi, welcome to Molly's Bar and Girl. This YouTube channel is named after Molly's Bar and Girl, which is the lesbian bar in Gotham City. I am Molly, and I am your lesbian host. And I wanted to start this channel to focus on an in-depth analysis on comic books issue by issue. And we're going to have a focus on sapphic characters, your favorite villains and heroes. This is the time where I'm going to say a spoiler warning. If you haven't read the issue yet or the trade it's in, please go do so now. We're going to talk about different story points and the issue as a whole, so it's much better and you'll get more out of it if you've read the whole thing. And let's get started. I am starting with Batwoman Elegy. Greg Rucka is coming back to Batwoman in March, and I never thought this would happen. I am sad that a lot of people are not covering this, so why not do it myself? And I thought I have a cool idea to talk about the comics in depth more visually, and that is what I'm doing here. Let's start off with the cover. I read these issues as they were coming out. One of the things I love about, and I'm not going to cover the second feature, I'm sorry, I love you, Renee, but we'll get to you later. I'll probably do an even longer series on that, because I love Kate, but Renee is probably my favorite DC character. Back to Kate. So this first cover, I do love it. It is probably my least favorite cover of the whole series, though, because while I love this, it's a great intro to Kate, it's a great piece of art, it's a great demonstration of her redesign after 52, because in 52, it was pretty much a repurposed Batgirl design, if I remember correctly, when she was first introduced. And so this is Kate's origin. This is Kate's coming out. This is establishing the definitive version of Kate Kane, as imagined by the creators. And while I love this piece of art, I very distinctly remember it being released well in advance of the book, when the book was maybe first announced. And I don't remember how long the delay was, but I do remember there was a delay from when this book was announced, and this was given as like a redesign kind of concept art thing, if my memory is correct. Yeah, I do love it. It's great. It doesn't feel like it connects to the bottom section. And it doesn't, later we'll go over the other covers when I cover those issues individually. With this, it just doesn't fit. You have you can tell very obviously either like this part of the art here, the square, was kind of added in. It doesn't flow like a lot of the other colors, the Alice, and as we know later, this is representative of Alice. And one of the things I love about the covers of this arc is that they, show the duality and parallels between Alice and Kate. And you have a lot of with those parallels, like, the fact that they're twins and, enemies and et cetera, et cetera. But as far as this cover goes individually, it doesn't flow. It doesn't really seem to connect. It seems like this box was just kind of added on. While I do love it, and it's a great piece of art, like I love the colors, I love all the psychedelic stuff, I love how Alice has kind of a 1970s vibe with her design. As we learn later, she maybe drugged all the time, or at least a good portion of the time, or at least has drugged herself enough to be immune to some. And it fits with the whole Alice in Wonderland theme. I love the fonts with Detective Comics. If I remember correctly, the colors are different and things like that with the masthead here. Yeah, I forget, they always have the Batman Reborn tie-in thing, which it doesn't relate to really, like, at all. Just pretend that doesn't exist. This is a origin story focusing on Kate and Alice and their story and what makes Kate a hero. And that's what I'm excited to talk about. Right off the bat, I love this opening shot. With the black and white, you come in and it's a little messy in the sense of everything. It's not quite out of focus because, the criminal here is, running, and you can tell he's scared to death and running from something. And everything's clear and focused. But I love the spatter, like white splatter, like spray paint. I don't know if that's just how that's done with a brush or what, but it's a very cool effect. And I love the little graffiti giving hints of, like, you know, Joker stuff, magic, all of that being relevant, because it kind of helps give the vibe that a lot of Batwoman has, that, oh, there's another Joker graffiti, that a lot of other Bat books don't, and that it can kind of go into the mystical occult. You know, you have the religion of crime, and that automatically implies a lot of outskirt criminal activity that isn't just solved with, you know, that makes Kate a more interesting and covers a niche in her detective work that is fun sometimes for Batman, but he doesn't deal with magic all that much. He doesn't deal with occult stuff all that much. He doesn't deal with monsters all that much. But with Kate, you know, you're setting up the vibe here. Like, yes, it's very noir, but you have a lot of added artistic elements, and it pays respect to, like, that Batman vibe, Gotham City noir vibe. But already you're seeing some elements in this first panel of things being a little different. Also, shout out, I love this cat. Look at him. He's so cute. Look at that. Look at that baby. He's scared too. We have that. And then we have the credits starting here. We have Greg Rucka, writer, and then in the next in-between panel, border of the panel, we have J.H. Williams III as the artist. I love that they're using this negative space that usually would just be ignored, and someone would probably, you know, normally want to put the credits in the art, which sometimes works if you know, plan it out and everything, but they're using it to kind of act like title cards in a movie, I guess, or it doesn't disrupt the image and the storytelling that you have with the panels themselves. And I appreciate that a lot. Also, you see a little bit in the second panel, sepia color coming in. Like, it's very, very subtle. I feel like most people probably don't even notice. But you can tell by, I don't know if it was, like, planned from the start with the script or JH's art, communicating with the colorist, hopefully, or what. But I love how these three panels you have, you know, it's purely black and white. And then you have a little bit of color coming in, and then the burst splash of real color is Kate's bat symbol. It is amazing. I love it. But also because it is purposely saturated against, like, you can see a little bit more color coming into this guy's hand and jacket here, mainly. You can tell it's kind of a, I think it's supposed to be a very light, my eye see it, I guess, as a very light greenish brown. I guess it could be like a forest green eventually, but it's kind of a subtle brown. And then you have the blonde hair here. I mainly can tell the color because you look here and there's the pure white, you know? And that contrasted with, okay, you can see there's a slight bit of color there, and in his jacket and his face. So a little bit of peach there. So, but yeah, it's a great first page. It really helps put you in the scene. Like, you're in this grungy, watery alley, and then he's obviously terrified. Focus on that. And then you go into, what's he terrified of? He's looking back. You kind of play into, another thing I really love is there is a lot of play in the direction, like controlling the reader's eye in most comics, but especially in, God, just this first page, because you have, obviously, you know, Western readers, we're going to start left to right, so he's running, right? And then you have the credits, and you're going to read the credits left to right. And then what I love here, the second panel, your eye immediately goes to the dialogue box, and then you go to focus on the art, and his eyes have you look back. So you automatically are looking back. And then that brings you to, you're reading these credits, and you go over, and then you're back to, because red is one of the, like, more defining eye color option, or eye-catching color options. And I love how that's a very badly drawn arrow. We're going to ignore that. But anyway, yeah, how it just all goes into, you have, it helps flow and make even the first page dynamic and like action driven, because you have the guy running and the reader's eyes directed back and forth, but not in a overwhelming way, not in a confusing way, in a very simple way. And I love the first splash. It's just that red, and it's the color scheme, and it just fits. Like, that is Kate. That is our star. And I love the subtle, like, you don't see her completely. It's a great intro of, okay, this is someone different. Now we got our first page spread. And I love our first page spread. As you turn the page, it's so much energy. It's so much moving parts. The panels contribute so much to that, because it feels like electricity. You have these jagged edges, and there's so much energy with the text and in the negative space again, and then just the red, all of the red. It just grabs your attention, like, whoa, like, the poor guy here. You're kind of like, oh wow, that's a kick to the face, literally. He got, in literal sense and figurative, as for the reader. Here's Kate. Here she is. One of the things I love is you already have this bat shape going, and it goes into the top there, and then down. You're like, it's not a super obvious bat shape, I guess. It helps direct your eye, and just an overall sense, like, as you take in the page, when you first flip over, it's like, oh wow, what is happening? And it directs your eye to the literal, like, kick at the camera. You get to see Kate's face, and the first time she talks and everything. You see poor Rich, and he's like, panicked. He's like, okay, what do you want? The way I always read bold text is like emphasis and volume. So you have, like, not you. Why won't you leave me alone? What do you want? You can tell she's been tracking this guy for a bit. I love a lot of Kate's tactic here. And it's very much like, you know what I want. She is emphasizing that. Like, he knows, she knows, and, she just needs him to tell her. I love the focus here you have on the smile. It's kind of a alluring, like, performance of femininity, basically. I want, but the smile comes with it. It's also threatening. I want the where, when, like, I want her name. And it's like, okay, who the hell is she talking about? We have no idea. But then it's followed up with, okay, here's the obvious threat. Here's, like, her boot in the guy's face. So in Rush's face. It's just so much colors and everything. What helps her pop more is that Rush and everything, like, it's a bit more color than we had on the first page, but it's still you can see the jacket is more yellowy, but you see a bit more color with the alley itself, with a little bit of the red and the brick, but it's all still very muted compared to Kate. That helps Kate just jump out, be the center of every panel. You have the text in the negative space again, and I love that. And that also helps emphasize, like, you have a whole triangle shape here and a triangle shape here, and then the triangle shape of these panels, these first these first 4 panels into the 5th panel, and that just all helps direct the reader's eye to right here. And I love that. I love that it directs to, like, okay, yeah, here she is. She's badass. Side note, if you remember the cat from the first page, here he is. He's running away. He gets away. I'm happy for the cat. I also love the progressions of these panels, because you go from wide shot to, like, slowly revealing Kate's face and then focusing on the smile. Like, she's enjoying this. She is in her element. But yeah, to continue the credits, you got Elegy Part 1 at Gitato, and then colors are by Dave Stewart and Todd Klein, letters, and then Harvey Richards, assistant editor, and Michael Siglain, editor. J.G. Jones did a variant cover, apparently, and then Batman is created by Bob Kane. Also, I love the little bat here. It's silly, but I love it. I don't know why you need that. It's there, and it's cute. With the bat panel, the panels being in a bat laid out, and what the bat symbol means for Kate, and then having it on other parts of her uniform, basically, because that's how she views her costume, is It's all the bat symbolism is a constant reminder of how this is how she is serving. This is how she is here to help the people of Gotham, help the people of the world. Here we got the next page. I love the way the panels are laid out because they just are, you have to take your time to look at them. It's an unconventional way to display comic book panels. It's a lot of fun little storytelling. It makes for a really great reading experience. But yeah, you have the more traditional rectangle here for this first panel. You also go back into a vague bat shape. Like, it's not as direct with the bat ears and everything, but you still kind of have the whole wingspan triangle shape here. And I appreciate that. And then it goes back into a more rectangular last panel. But they also help direct your eyes. Again, you know, these borders are used to help direct the eye into, you know, where the reader needs to go next, as do the speech balloons with the lettering. I love this whole cape thing. You see more of her silhouette and full costume here, and I love it. I love the texture of the cape with these elements and just how it's flowing. It looks like real boots. And yeah, the lipstick is just there. I think really what this displays is he is terrified of Kate right now, but with this dialogue, I think a lot of it is telling that he is really more terrified of the religion of crime and this new leader of it coming than he is of Kate right now. Because he knows he's in a situation where he has to give up the information. He's also just more terrified of the fact that she's coming. And, you know, they'll kill him and all of that. And so he is just freaking out. I love the return of the smile. You get a little bit of a hint of it in this panel, but then the real emphasis is here. She's like, okay, I got my strategy. Because she needs to make him feel safe. But I love the change of color here because it emphasizes you got that warmer glow around everything in this last panel. And that emphasizes a lot of warmth. I think of it as like she's being firm and that she's not going to let them hurt him. And it's also playing up that femininity again. She's playing up that trope of comfort. And that is very telling. Okay, so I love in this next page, we have the continued glow. I like how the warm color informs the type of voice you feel. Like she is looking more vulnerable, like her hands in his hair, but it's not in a comforting manner. Like, it's not seduction. It's just more of a, like, it's a little comfort, but, you know, you can tell that her grip is a bit firm. Using her femininity to her advantage, but in a distinctly queer way, and I'll talk more about that later. It gives you that sense of, okay, she's trying to be reassuring and everything, but one thing I love, and it tells so much about Kate, is like from this panel you have the warmth, and then it goes straight into a cooler panel, and she's grinning, but she very firmly has her fingers on his jaw, and so you kind of get the sense that she is leading him to her ear and is like, hey, you know, tell me. And the implicit threat is there. But I love the bat silhouette here with the art, and especially here, it's very Batman the Animated Series. Like, that's what that makes me think of, is that bat silhouette. And then she lets him go. She's like, okay, he gave her the information she needed. She didn't have to beat the crap out of him, which is an important distinction I feel like a lot of people do not make. They always assume, you know, I feel like sometimes people portray Kate as like being super violent when she used the threat of violence, but then she also did the back and forth, did it with more comfort and cajoling and using her femininity than just pure aggressive tell me or I beat you up, which is more of a Batman tactic. Oh, well, Bruce has been watching, or Batman's been watching. Whoever the hell Batman is in this series, that's who's watching. And, you know, she realizes it, and then she's like, God, now I gotta go talk to him. Because, yeah, Kate is not inspired by Batman himself. She is inspired by his philosophy. And she is kind of part of the next generation, or a partnership, another branch of it, to do things her way, because, you know, one man can't do it all, and I think it's a, honorable respect to use the bat symbol to basically have that theme and that acknowledgement, then respect. But at the same time, she is doing her own thing. She is her own person, her own individual, and is equal to Bruce and Batman in all the ways that matter. Also, with the panels, you continue this whole vague bat theme that helped with the direction and everything, and I just love that. So yeah, I also love the continued texture with the cape and the mask. It makes it seem very like rubber or whatever it is that they use. I love how her expression is just this feels like, to me, this is Kate's everyday expression. She's just like, oh, fine. A little annoyed that she has to now go and talk to Batman and explain things or whatever. This is our next double page spread, and again, I just love the introduction of Kate and her cape, and just she is the center of this panel. She is the center of this book. Batman hasn't even really been shown. Like, he's just completely in silhouette. He is obviously just there in the foreground, and he's a part of the story, but he is not the main character of the story. That is Kate, and that is what matters. He isn't stealing any spotlight. They were very careful to not have him just take over the pages. He is there to advise and basically mansplain, but he is not there to take any of this story away from Kate, and I love that. And also you have the continued vague bat shape of these panels, which I love. I think what helps a lot having the panels in a giant spread like this is it helps give the detail and immersiveness that a splash page generally does, but also, you get more detail and storytelling by still having the 4 panels below. So it's still a 5-panel composition, but it helps that you feel a bit more immersed because the panels are inside this whole double page spread, because you can tell there's still part of the rooftop there, and looks like some sort of building or something on this side, and then probably Batman's cape. And then we get into the details of these, he's like, that's why I say it's mansplaining, because, or batsplaining, batsplaining. He's surprised. He's like, oh, I can't believe he gave it up. It's an annoying, it's like whenever you do a good job at work and then the dude who's been there a while is like, well, actually, do you know about this and that? And she's like, yeah, I actually do. And, guess what? You're wrong. They're actually 13. You had your number off because you haven't been studying them like I have. Just because you popped in here and you've been here a while doesn't mean that you know everything. But yeah, I love also the comparison to White Smoke here, because it just makes me, it helps with that whole religion of crime. They have elected their new pope, basically. And I want everyone to remember that she's supposed to be the leader of the whole religion, all the different branches and everything. She's the new pope of all of these dioceses and churches or whatever. Basically, Gotham is the Vatican for crime, which makes sense. I love the little grin. She can't help herself. But yeah, you can tell she's not threatened. She's not nervous. She's just annoyed because, hey, this dude's trying to come in and tell her what she already has been doing and what she knows she's doing. Yeah, she's confident. I love it. Like the way, the body language, the smirk, and the fact that we get just more detail. I love all of it. I love how, and the comparison with the silhouettes here, but I love how she just stands out because of all the red and the hair. Yeah, and Batman is not the star. He is there, but that is not what this book is about. And Kate is equal to him. She is on his level, whether he wants to acknowledge it or not. With this next spread, you finally get the face of Batman in the foreground. You got a little bit of a panel there in the back, but now you actually see the costume and everything. And I love this as he's leaving. I am annoyed and amused that he has that little dig about her hair, and the fight's over because it's such a stupid thing that a lot of people are like, oh, if a woman has long hair, how can they fight? Because someone can just grab it. And I love her, just her little. She still has the little bit of a smirk here. And, she was like, I'll take it under advisement. And that's a polite way to be like, you don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, we continue I love how when you go from this hyper-realized world of the vigilante, you have the continued panel display of the jagged kind of lightning, or it's not quite a bat silhouette anymore, but it is still just, jagged kind of frames that are pointed, like, the bat wings are pointed, the bat symbol. I like the continuation of that theme. And then I love these little speed lines with Kate and the bike. I love she has a bike. It's cool. What lesbian doesn't love when you got a bike? It also adds to... I honestly had not thought of it before until I'm talking about this, but she's a dyke on a bike. Yeah, there you go. She's a dyke on a bike. And it kind of, a lot of lesbians do have that reputation. I will never be caught dead on one, but I do appreciate them and respect them. Way to uphold the tradition, Kate. One of the things I love too about this is the transition from JH's art style. So you have the hyper-realistic vigilante thing going here, and then it fades into Kate as, she gets out of the shower. She's gone back to her base. It's not a cave, it's a tree. So you see this tree, it's like, okay, it's not a fucking cave, but you see actually part of it here too. Her whole building, I would say apartment, but it's really her apartment's there, but it's the whole building. You get into her going back home and you see a bunch of little gadgets there. I love that. And oh yeah, guess what? All the hair that he was worried about, it's a wig. And I love the comparison of Kate's Batwoman performance as drag. I love how it relates to the LGBT culture as a whole. It just makes a lot of sense because it fits like a lot of drag. That persona is, to my understanding, it's one of the first ways a lot of queer people can express themselves. I love in particular, this is kind of a lesbian drag scenario. You have her as a more femme, crime fighting persona into a bit more butch, relaxed, not as high femme civilian persona. I love that. And the muted colors, but also muted detail. I love that contrast. Overall, I love this whole page spread because it is very much about a transition from her persona as Batwoman to her persona as Kate Kane. That doesn't mean she's more one or the other. It just are different aspects of herself. And Batwoman is a form of expression, if not that contributes to her fulfillment. And that is what is not more LGBT encompassing than that. Now we're on the date page. Immediately, this is one of my favorite sections of the issue. We have the Morning Glory $3.99 breakfast specials. Anyway, we see Kate is here meeting Anna. Anna's a jerk. I don't like Anna. She's already made up her mind. Cause she's already like, instead of a hi, it's you're late. Kate overslept. And she's like, some of us have jobs, and gotta be in court. And it's like, okay, we know you got a deadline, Anna. But the thing is, it's so telling. Obviously, it seems like they've been dating for a little bit because Kate goes in for a kiss and Anna's just disappointed. Granted, this may to give Anna some credit, like the 100th time Kate has done this. I don't know. But she's just here, ready to fight. She's already made up her mind. It's like, don't tell me you overslept, Obviously, you haven't gone to sleep. And I also love that you will note, please, because that's so lawyer. Let me specify exactly what I mean and spell it out for you. I didn't say gone to bed. And the kid's just like, I had a late night. Anna's already described like, oh, is that what you're calling her? It's like, okay, this one was ready and done way before Kate arrived. I feel bad for Kate because she's automatically like kind of disappointed. Hey, Anna, sometimes night people are just, you oversleep. But she already thinks Kate doesn't have a job and all of that. I think this is the first look we get at her Army Special Forces tattoo that we find out later she gets after she finishes training. I do love the lighting in this cafe. It looks nice. It looks like a nice place to eat. And then I love, you can actually see the figures are different each. It's not just a repeat. Like it gives the sense that there's a crowd in the background, they're moving, things are going on. And that's something that's great in comics. Like it's a sequential, like you get that sense of movement without having to directly show all the stages. This is the next page, and we have Kate initially trying to explain, and Anna does not give her a chance. She apparently has had this speech ready. I do find it interesting that Mallory introduced them. We have basically, here's the rundown of what people think of Kate, like when they don't know the whole story. And it's a lot of, I thought you were in for a serious relationship and that you wanted stability, and instead you're out tomcatting all around. It's like, didn't want to use her as a rebound. So, and that she's very privileged and takes everyone for granted. And it's one of those things, you can tell Anna already made up her mind. She already has this argument in her head. She's already decided this is the way things are. And she doesn't even give Kate a chance to explain herself. She doesn't want to hear it. I don't know the full context. This may have been, the 6th or 7th time Kate has done this, but it breaks her heart as a reader because you just see Kate's disappointed face. Like, you can tell she does probably want something serious, but she has to find someone she can be vulnerable with and tell everything to, and that's not what she has. I do like the little touch of this painting in particular. You kind of get a little bit of foreshadowing for upcoming issues because you have the leaves that'll be a big figure later on after Kate and Alice first meet, and then this little umbrella with the girl. One, it reminds me of a Monet painting. I'll have to look up the name, but also I love it's like a mirror image of the way Kate is facing. So you have, and with the color of the umbrella, it attributes that to Beth. Because you have that kind of cooler Alice color scheme going on whenever Beth appears. So it's kind of a slight foreshadowing of Kate and Beth being twins and the mirror images of each other in a lot of different ways. I love that little bit of subtle foreshadowing. And then you have the leaves here. That'll be a big thing when Kate's on the run from Alice. I also love the sound effect here. Kate's already like, hey, that's not fair. You're not giving me a chance to say anything. But Anna cuts her off and it's like, I don't care. I love the continued, kind of like Beth is still, or Beth's ghost in Kate's case is overlooking, like, watching Kate. We all know Beth's alive if you finish the story, but at this point Kate doesn't. Kate still thinks Beth is passed. So we have kind of a subtle foreshadowing of the ghost of Beth haunting Kate, but then also the foreshadowing of Beth herself to appear later as Alice. And it was just here to say goodbye in a very rude, mean way. And okay, bitch, goodbye. She claims she likes her and, that, oh, she's so she's smart, got a sense of humor. And apparently she has a thing against flannel, which, fuck you, Anna. I feel like Anna is just piling on the guilt here to poor Kate. And again, she emphasizes that she doesn't think Kate is serious, and Anna's done with playing the field. So it sucks that Kate still has that reputation, but it serves a purpose with keeping her identity as Batwoman, but a lot of sacrifices come with that too. And Anna's like, call me if you ever decide to grow up. And Kate's just, they're sad. Like, Anna didn't give her any chance of anything. I love you still have a little hint of the painting here. I haven't really noticed that before, but it's still peeking through. We're on the next double page spread. I love Kate's apartment. Again, I think the panels really serve to have them inserted in this larger piece of art. It helps give it a sense of immersion to me. The reason I say it has a sense of immersion is because your eyes go directly from looking at the panel, reading the text boxes or speech bubbles, and your eye goes directly from reading the panel to looking at the speech bubbles, and then you go into looking at the detail of the apartment. So you can tell when you take a closer look, like, your eyes go back and forth. You can go and just continue reading the speech bubbles, but then you can't help but kind of glance and see what is going on in this apartment. So yeah, you go, usually the reader's eye will just go and kind of trade into it. Then you go back, we're playing again with taking advantage of the reading order and how people read a comic in a Western format. And you can't help but, even if you're doing a quick read, take a look at the whole apartment as you go back and look to the next speech bubble. And I love that design a lot. A lot of thought was put into it, and a lot of thought was put into where the speech bubbles are placed and what dialogue goes where and how you continue. And as you continue to read, you can't help but glance up and see more details of the apartment. And then if you really want to take a good look, There's a lot to find out. So one thing I really like as well is you can tell JH had a very staunch sense of design with the room, and I love the little peeks you get into where everything is. So Kate's bedroom is here, and that's where that panel is, and then she walks up and her dad, it looks like, is at the table here, and then you go into the next panel, like, because he's got the coffee ready and he's looking at a laptop. It feels like these figures are in the space because it is so detailed, because so much thought was given to where everything is and laid out and, constructed as a real, almost, drawn model of the room. You can tell how everything flows, and it just adds subconsciously, I think, that piece of immersion that is so fascinating with this arc and series of books in JH's art. And you can tell you had to work with the writer to a degree with that, because, in the letter, all of that working together is how it plays into immersing the reader into, this is what Kate's apartment is. This is what it looks like. It gives you so much of a sense of personality. You have the band posters. The band posters here. And a lot of guitars and a lot of movies and TV, particularly like a vinyl thing here. And, obviously she is Jewish, and you have the menorah altar setup thing there. You have nice kitchen, bedroom. Apparently the girl needs some blackout curtains though, because the sun should not be coming through. Either she forgot to close them well or what, because you need blackout curtains, Kate. If you're working nights and sleeping the end of the day, they are very important. Otherwise, it's nice there's a lot of light in this room. Okay, she needs a door here. What I realize now is she needs a door here. I don't know if she just didn't close it because the sun came in through the window and hit her on the bed there. And I'm like, Kate, you need to sleep. And I love the tree here. Oh, also, I love that's a nice little, that's great to have in your bathroom, Kate. Okay, if we're talking about what is going on in the story, you can tell her dad is listening to the recording from Batman from last night, and I do like he refers to her as Catherine fully, not Kate, anything, just Catherine. And then he's like, here you doggy do. So you can tell they're really close. She at least has someone that knows her as a person fully and also knows her as Batwoman and knows the secret. And that's important. If you want to be a healthy hero, I think, is to have someone that knows who you are as a complete person, not just as Kate, not just as Batwoman, but completely. You already get a sense of Jacob here in that he is Intel trained and takes everything Kate does very seriously, and as her Intel analysis person is very particular of knowing where she's at all times and what is going on, usually with the recording and what she does every night. He's not necessarily awake during that time, I'm not sure, but because he's listening to it the next day. So he trusts her to go out by herself and then does the analysis afterwards, after her mission's done. So now we got this next page, and Kate is continuing to work out. You can tell from the previous panel on the last page and this one and her facial expression here that she is having some discomfort. We get a lot of explanation here about what happened after Kate got stabbed in the heart in 52 by the religion of crime. You get a lot of her personality here, which is that she tries to push through it. She tries to soldier on. Her dad is like, hey, you were actually stabbed through the heart. It's okay to take it easy. Kate's obviously responding pretty stressed and is a little insulted that her dad is trying to make her calm down, but she's got that momentum going. She's trying to just keep going, keep that momentum continuing. Okay, I love this page because overall you get a sense of the panels again being immersed in this larger art image with the painting behind the first two panels and then continuing down through the next three, and even the second to last panel being a cutout in between the two square panels but coming directly into the painting here. I love that a lot because not only does it add to the storytelling to have this immersed here, it's our first little hint that we get into Kate's past This is also the first page we get where we get a lot of Kate's perspective. And I love a lot of the fact that she is so instantly angry and instantly aggravated at her dad at, trying to get her to slow down. She took it as, falsely, I guess, as a criticism of how she's able to get work done. And the fact that she reacts so emotionally states a lot of this is constantly on her mind, constantly, especially with having been kidnapped and stabbed and tortured by the religion of crime. Reading back on after reading the full story, you see a lot of why that particular kidnapping would send Kate right back to her original trauma and a lot of those feelings. And I love that she is confiding in her dad. You can tell that he's probably the only person she does confide in. And I think that's really sweet. Also, the fact that she calls him Pop. I forgot to mention that earlier. That's just sweet. It's a lot of her. We get to see her perspective, her emotions of she still is recovering from what happened in 52 and the fact that she was kidnapped and how it's bringing up a lot of that old trauma. We don't know the direct connections yet, but I love how there is a lot of foreshadowing here if you know where to look. Even with just her mentioning, like, we don't know who they are at this point and that they were right beside her again. But the look in her eyes, the sadness, and then Jacob here mirroring that. And that tells you a lot. And then him repeating her words of, like, we soldier on, and comforting her with a hug and everything. And it tells you that he knows exactly where she is mentally and exactly what she is talking about. There are no secrets between them at this point, and he just wants to comfort her and is like trying to help her, hey, I got you something to take your, to help with the mission and everything. But one other thing I like about how that I realized looking at this now is with the hug being the cutout panel here, it very much mirrors later on in the series when Jacob is the one that rescues Kate and her being on his shoulder. It's a neat, very subtle echo of what's going to come later, and having it connect directly into the painting of her feeling like she was kidnapped again. That really hits that home in a way only comics can, with that emotional watercolor and, impact of that and the immersiveness of it. So now we go to the next page where see what Jacob got Kate. Okay, one thing that's immediate and off the bat, you got a double page spread with some semi-directional paneling here with the layouts, and the coloring is immediately a lot cooler, a lot grayer. It's interesting to me, as readers, we're leaving the warmth. You can see the glow of it in the background here, but the warmth of her apartment and her civilian life into a more cool environment and serious environment with the Batwoman tech. But you also have the core inside where the tree is really living. And I like you get hints of the tree outside, but the core of who Kate is, who Jacob is, their mission is in this room right here. That's what I feel like the tree partly represents, is this is the real basis, the real foundation of what they're trying to do and how they identify themselves and what their purpose is. And a lot of that has to do with Kate being Batwoman. And we get some insight here with these panels that Jacob is borrowing, creatively applying some tech, military tech to Kate and using it for that. So you can tell he still is involved in the U.S. military and perhaps intelligence community, and also that he is actively using some of that technology to help Kate. Overall, I love a lot of the setup of her hideout here. A lot of you got the utility belt. Again, with the cool colors, the red just pops so nicely. and everything else has kind of a lower saturation. We came from the warm room to the lower saturation area of the hideout in the Batwoman world. And I like here, it is her gearing up. It is like a uniform. She's gearing up to go take care of the new head of the religion of crime. You get a bit more insight into Jacob has a new wife and is like your mother and I, and Kate insists on calling her stepmother. And now I gotta go do this. Rush told her it's a limited time and that she's arriving in Gotham tonight and that all 13 Covenant leaders will be there. The last leader before I think they killed him in 52, is the one who abducted and tried to carve her heart. She wants to get ahead of it. Jacob's like, why are they obsessed with you? And Kate's like, I don't know. It doesn't matter. But she's got to take care of it. But yeah, that's her main. You can see that she is not letting it happen again. And she's going to get some answers as to why they keep targeting her and hopefully disrupt the organization and prevent it from happening to her specifically again and anyone else. Also, I love a lot of the movement in this panel, the bike and everything, and her outfit and the cape. It's just all very cool. Get to one of the things I don't like about this story arc. This is me being a print nerd, but it's not as bad digitally, but I hate the black on red text, that it doesn't print very well. Red is the hardest color to print because a lot of physical printing is CMYK, and it's hard to match up the magenta to get that bright red color, and you put black text on top of it, it just makes it highly illegible, and you can see it just adds to the darkness. That red is already going to be pretty dark, and when the black text is on top of it, it makes it harder to read, because you always have to take into account whenever you are making a print product or printing something, everything is going to be a few shades darker depending on what quality paper you're using. Usually comics are not printed on the highest quality. Usually they're pretty good, but you got to think about that dot gain, and dot gain's where the amount of ink that's absorbed when a comic is printed, and when that comic and image is printed on the paper, the dot gain adds more blur. You're going to have less defined detail. It's going to mute a lot of the colors and make them darker. Any colors, also good colors, they obviously know what they're doing, but it's really just here with the text, I really just don't like it. The other is more forgivable because, it's still going to pop and it's still going to blend. This is also one of my favorite double page spreads. You get a lot of cool detail in here, an immersion aspect with the whole background being kind of Kate's body with the panels inserted in. So you have her face here, and then it goes into the bat symbol here. And it represents the bat symbol on her uniform, and also again, the theme coming back to it repeating is evidence of how much the bat symbol means in regards to inspiration for her mission and prevent the religion of crime from getting a foothold and kidnapping people. But in between the panels, you see a lot of her hair, and that helps with the connective tissue of having everything feel very immersed. And you even get a little bit of this last panel breaking into the background. And I love that a lot. It's the borders are not necessarily a hard border. Basically, it adds to the immersion because the panels are inside the image and continuing the image in some cases. Like here and with this last panel, directing attention. Now we get to how I love these individual panels. You get a peek into how Kate's been operating for the last few weeks or months, that she already knows where, from this guy to, this group of dudes at a bar. And then you get a lot of, I know when. And I love this little smirk there, her just waiting to surprise this person. And this involved with the religion, and the little hint at the Alice in Wonderland book. So we already get a connection that the group Religion of Crime Coven know about Alice's fondness of the story, identification with the story, however you want to define it. And then she finds out who it is from. You get a sense, even with these panels, that this religion of crime goes through so many different classes and walks of life. It's not just confined to the gangs of Gotham. You have the lowlifes that are at bars, you have a librarian, and then you have a senator or something with some prostitute. But I always love the boot on a dude's face. But yeah, and then I also love the reflection and smile there of Kate as she tries to find more information. You see this person is more into the mystical aspect of the religion of crime, and then we get into more of that here with the stained glass windows too. As you can see she's approaching the meeting with the 13 coven heads. And I think these last 3 panels are more her in that POV coming in on the ritual area. I like that she's playing up the, you fear my name, and that how names have power, and she wants hers for who the new leader is. Even the smoke is kind of a image into Alice, is kind of a nod to Alice, because once she gets introduced, then everything becomes a bit more fluid. There's a lot of smoke imagery tied to Alice, and when Kate has these sharp corners reminiscent of like direction and purpose and, discipline, versus Alice's fluid, adaptable, hidden etherealness with smoke. It is nice to have an art nod to that with all these smoke trails and having it correlated to Kate. And I love the little smirk. She's just ready to go. She knows she's got the drop on them. She knows she surprised them, even like scares them. And now we have this double page spread with her beating up all the coven heads. It's a cool spread. I like a lot of the directional like lightning bolts or zigzags here with like his shirt. It's a common theme with Kate. The jaggedness serves as a sound effect to a degree because you have the pain of like the lightning bolt, like the punch. All of the panels have a punch or kick involved that reflect that emphasis of pain when she makes contact without actually having to even see the contact. And that's really cool. Image is a little weird perspective-wise, and I don't know, whatever the hell, they got more weird stained glass things going on. This is also probably my least favorite double page spread, because, again, you have the red on black, and it looks fine digitally, but I know in print, it gets very muddled. Like, even in digitally, I can barely tell that's her arm there. It's not very clear. I have to zoom in and look closely. Otherwise, it kind of just, looking far off, I have no idea what's going on here. I have to actually zoom in to be like, oh, okay, that's her boot. That's the back of a woman. Like, it's really hard to tell. And she's kicking someone in the leg, looks like. And then, you can see this pretty clear. He apparently had a weapon that came out of nowhere. You can see, and the main reason I feel like you can see this clearer is because he has contrast with the sweater. Otherwise, and that helps you see her arm better. Otherwise, it would be very muddled like a lot of the other panels. Same with this guy and being in the suit. And with the gun, it helps identify more contrast that you can tell kind of what's going on. But this panel, the bottom half of this one, and this one are very hard to read, and they're even harder to read in print, I feel like. And if the last double page spread was one of my least favorite, this is one of my favorites. We have Alice, and I love Alice. I had forgotten how much I love Alice until I reread this, because I hadn't read this in probably a decade. And these panels are just so great. I love the direct mirror imaging in each one. So you have the wide shots here and how they're diagonally mirroring each other. And then you have the mid shots here and then the close-ups here between each one of them. But then you also have immediately, you can just see this great introduction to Alice. And you have the filigree here mixed up with the smoke. So Alice already has a lot of these smooth and then the circular themes going with her style and her as a character, with her outfit too, with a lot of the design details you can see here and here. And I love her little jacket that's like a cape thing, coat I guess her coat thing. The most I could find with the stained glass was kind of a archangel, guardian angel references. Nothing direct. And over here with Kate, the background of Kate, you see a lot of the red rock, which had to do with the religion of crime and Cain, like, who ended up being Vandal Savage, who ended up being, from 52. But then you also have the House of Cain, which is where they thought Batwoman in their prophecy, whatever was a reference to, because of Cain and Abel. You also have the duality with the brothers and the sisters here. And then you have this random on stained glass window watch. This little demon guy here. I'm not sure if that's supposed to mean something, but he's there. I do like the setup with all the panels are very trapezoid, very triangular, sharp. Compared to with the introduction of Alice, we still have a lot of smoke going. We have a lot of circular accents and some smoke coming in on the panels with Kate as well. But I love before Alice appears, you have Kate getting ready to interrogate some of these cult religious people. I like out the gate I'm intrigued by the little tidbit. I know that some people may find it annoying, but I find it intriguing, the little and creative, using quotes directly from the novel as Alice's dialogue directly. I know that had to have been hard as hell. It is really creative and neat. I love looking at how these quotes reflect what is going on and possibly what Alice is trying to communicate. And they are very particular and very on purpose, and they all have something to say. And I think a lot of people, and Kate herself, look at it as kind of like just a crazy thing, but it is an interesting presentation. Taking back the whole, going back to the whole drag analogy, if you have Kate doing drag as Batwoman, then it's interesting that Alice has more of a direct character in being, or Beth has a more direct character in being Alice. So you have that duality with them as well, not just, the hero and villain are sisters. Like, there's more to it than just that one parallel. You have Kate as Batwoman and Beth as Alice. It was, one of her favorite books, and it's interesting to know I hope we figure out one day if it seems like it's part coping mechanism, but then also something that Alice enjoys a lot. Same with Kate, being Batwoman is a coping mechanism to deal with her trauma to a degree, but it's more about the mission of being there to help others and help take out the corruption in the city, basically. Or corruption in the world, really. Just being a hero. And this line is also very telling. I can't explain myself, I'm afraid, because I am not myself, you see. I think a lot of people interpret that as Alice as a different personality, but I don't know if it's a completely different personality. Like, I think Beth is still in touch with reality. Alice is like Batwoman is to Kate. I think it makes more sense that Alice is part of Beth. I like the repetition of a lot of the faces as like mini masks that they're all wearing here. And now we're on the last page, and you have Kate being like, been forward to meeting you, and Alice is continuing with the communicating with the novel quotes as like, stuff and nonsense. Of having the idea of your sentence first is like you're already committing making a decision with the sentence without hearing her side of it, and Kate's just like, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, whatever. And then we find out later, like, that's you have the gun go off, but with the smoke and everything, you can tell it's an air compression gun. Yeah, I love a lot of the poses here. It kind of goes into that whole, even though they don't know it yet, sisterly, like, banter thing that I feel like you see a lot. As far as the art, I like a lot of you have more watercolor coming in here with Kate, and then the filigree twirly things with kind of look like clouds with Alice. Remind me of like kind of smoking clouds there. I like this expression on Alice's face because it's very much a a feigned fear. You learn in the next issue that we'll get to later. She's not really that concerned, but she play acts it well. And that's it for issue 1. Yeah, I hope everyone had a good discussion and hope you liked some of the points I made. And will be to be continued. Thank you for listening, and I'll see y'all next time. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Molly's Bar and Girl. If you enjoyed the conversation, please feel free to contribute in the Ko-Fi link in the description of the video. It'll help go to spoil this wonderful baby girl named Opal. And I also encourage you to please check out your local comic book store. They may do mail order, and that is the best way to support any favorite writer, artist, creator that you have for your favorite character in comics. That is what publishers most look to as to determine when a comic should continue or not. This has been Last Call for Molly's Bar and Girl. Until next time.